A story starts with Joe, a suspended police officer, carries a silent burden of guilty. His career hangs by a thread. With a court hearing tomorrow that could reinstate him or condemn his further, his wife and daughter left him after the incident that led to his suspension. A mistake he deeply regrets but cannot bring himself to confess. Working the night shift at a 911 emergency call center, Joe is constantly hounded by a persistent reporter Dick seeking to expose his story. He brushes off her calls, preferring to keep his past private. Even a late night attempt to reach his daughter through his estranged wife proves futile. His life takes an unexpected turn when he received a bizarre call from a woman named Emily. Her voice is strange, initially sounding as if she believed Joe is her son. Used to prank calls, Joe is almost dismissed it. But something is Emily's sad tone and man's voice in the background, arguing her to hang up. It sparks his suspicion. He quickly realized Emily has been kidnapped. Through a series of yes or no questions, Joe deduced that Emily has been abducted by someone close to her and is being transported out of the city on highway in white van. Joe immediately puts Emily on hold and alert the police patrolling team, providing them with crucial details. And Vibe's call start coming in, but his focus remains slowly on in saving Emily. He re-engaged with Emily, asking more questions, but she accidentally uttered a words of alert her captor. Before the call ended, Joe instructed her to ask for him specifically the next time she calls 911, ensuring she bypass other operators. Despite his duty technically being over, Joe's concern for Emily drives he obsessively tracks her location and investigates her detail. The highway patrol finds a white van, but it's not the right one. They need a license plate number to proceed. Determined, Joe finds Emily's home number and calls. Her 6-year-old daughter answers, revealing that only she and her younger brother are home. Their father Henry took their mother. The girl bravely provides Henry's name and phone number. Joe uses this to trace Henry's vehicle and discover a history of legal trouble against him. Concerned for the children's safety, Joe promised to send help. He relays the van number to the patrol team and desperately calls his department to send assistance to Emily's children. However, all rescue team and tried up with the major fire. Dick the reporter calls again, adding to Joe's stress. Overwhelmed, he calls his friend Sergeant, requesting 2 teams, one for Emily's house and another for Henry's expected destination. The sergeant, aware of the Joe's upcoming hearing, warns him against illegal action. Underrated, Joe states his shift is ending and hangs up. Joe tries calling Emily, but the line is dead. He calls his wife, who treasily dismisses him for calling so late. Deeply worried, Joe calls Henry from her personal number, confronting him directly about Emily. Henry, without a word, hangs up. Joe's attempt to reconnect with Henry fails. He then calls the colleague, who is nervous about giving false testimony of Joe's court hearing. Joe reassures him, then details Emily's case, asking him to gather more information from Emily's house. Just then, a call comes in from Emily's daughter. Joe, sensing urgency, answers. The girl says someone is at the door. Joe tells her to open it, believing it's the police team he sent. The police enter Emily's house and report a horrifying discovery. The young boy's clothes are bloody, but it's not his blood. He is dead, a victim of knife attack. The realization dawns on Joe that when the girl said her brother was sleeping, he was in fact already decreased. A devastated Joe calls Emily again. She is in the passenger seat, Henry driving. Joe noticed Henry is not wearing a seatbelt and is desperate. Misguiding attempt instruct Emily to put on her seatbelt and pull the handbrakes. The van does not flip, but Henry, enraged, forces Emily into the back. Emily reveals a wrench nearby. Joe, still believing Henry is the villain, tells her to hit him with it. Emily then explains in a chilling conference that her son was crying with stomach pain and she thought he had a snake inside him, so she cut him open. Joe is horrified. He understands the truth. Emily, suffering from a several mental illness, killed her son, and Henry was trying to take her away to prevent further harm. At that moment, Emily, following Joe's earlier instruction, attacks Henry with the wrench and flees. Joe's friend from the department's call confirming Emily's history of the mental instability and that Henry was taking her back to the mental hospital. Realizing his grave error, Joe calls Henry, whose head is bleeding but whose only concern in his daughter. Joe tries to reach Emily again, but says unreachable. A dispatcher then connects Joe to Emily, whose shift is technically over. Emily is on a bridge, her clothes stained with blood. She confessed to kill her son and overwhelmed with remorse instead to jump. In a moment of profound introspection, Joe admits his own mistake to Emily. 8 months ago, he shot a 19-year-old boy while on duty, and he's being planning to use false testimony to get his job back. His wife, who resents him for this, is among the unwilling witness. Joe, acknowledging their shared struggles with mental control, pleads with Emily not to jump, tearfully admitting his role in her current predicament. He dispatches a team to her location and keeps her talking, sharing his story of guilty and planned deception. The police arrive and Emily threatens to jump, but Joe, in a desperate act of responsibility, disconnects the call.
He repeatedly calls back.
Finally getting through to an officer who confirmed they apprehended Emily just in time. The news that Emily's son is alive, though severely injured and in the ICU, brings immense relief. This harrowing experience is profound turning point for Joe. He recognizes the immense good he did for Emily's family, contrasting it with the harm he inflicted on the family of the boy he killed. He calls his colleague, retracting his request for false testimony, and tells him the full truth, accepting the consequences of losing his job and potentially facing jail time. He calls all his witnesses, releasing them from the obligation to die. And finally, he calls the persistent reporter, sharing his entire story truthfully. The next day in the court, Joe is convicted, but the verdict through hers brings him an unprecedented sense of peace. The heavy burden of guilt, which he had carried for so long, is finally lifted. He is happy, finding satisfaction in having chosen truth, and the film concludes.